So these successful drops are happening all over the world, and most of the legitimate royalty is lost within these successful surrogacy drops that are very hard to ascertain. Now, it's very difficult for people to have access to labs. It's very difficult for people to have access to DNA information and blood. None of this information, for the most part, comes out publicly either. If people notice, there's almost virtually nothing on their genetic information with regards to what they know about DNA, genes, all of it. It's all hush hush, and that's completely abnormal. Okay, to have something so controlled, and that's the one thing that will give you all the answers. Junk DNA is not junk, never has been junk. Your everything, you're coded. We are codes, living in a frequency, in a sea, in a plasmatic ocean of electromagnetic frequency, and everything that has come together to create you is a living code. And this living code is ascertainable. It can be read. They make this inaccessible to people. If people had access to this, everybody would know who and what they are, what they're capable of, and what has been suppressed in them, and what has been inserted artificially.
Yeah, to reprogram and to shut down certain codes.
So this is hideous, okay? What's happened is hideous, but beyond what people know. Their control of this science, to the point where, even if you have to go and get a blood test, they only tell you the basic. They say, oh, you're just O negative or you're O positive. You have to go to National Geographic or 3andMe or whatever, all those. And those are government-run sites, by the way. All these sites that do Ancestry DNA, those are government-run, and those are the only sites that will actually give you more information about your stuff. But that's only because it's going into the beast database.
And it's going to be filtered, whatever they give you.
Exactly.
And possibly even falsified.
Exactly. So nobody's talking about this. This, to me, is one of the most alarming things, because this is where you're going to get your information of what you are. This is where you're going to know you're royal. You're a prime. You're the one that started in the creation of this.
Yeah, but you know what the beauty is that Spirit is revealing that to people regardless.
Yes.
At an appointed time, it's being revealed to them. So it doesn't matter whether people don't need to go through these government agencies.
I still think we have to push for this to break open, because it's important. The real information has to be accessible to us. We can't just be controlled like lab rats, and this is what's been happening. So these control drops.
But they're not going to control the unlocking. And that's...
No, and they can't. Although part of the unlocking is artificial, but the natural one is in tandem. But so the hidden ones, and when I was saying, this begs the question: what has been presented to the world as real royalty isn't, because nothing is as it seems. The royal families that the world knows of, that are the counterfeits. So if we look back and we see what that's connected to, which are, it goes back to the demiurgic powers, to the gods fighting over the terrarium, and it goes over what they created. When we were discussing that, and we were going back into the original, the Star of David, the lion, and the representation of how important the lion is to these, quote, royal lineages, in terms of symbology and in terms of revealing where you come from. A part of that comes from the origin, and then also there's the hijacking and the counterfeiting to that. So what we see happening at the beginning of these races dawning or being...
Which were genetically hijacked and perverted.
Right. We see that they did begin in origin with a legitimate... Pure seal. And then they were hijacked and it became something different.
It was bastardized.
Only they don't have any consciousness of it or any memory or anything like that. So this has been, and it's called a wash. It's when your mind is swiped, when you have like thoughts that come in that are really important and critical, when you have data that comes in that you know is important, that you need to follow, and then you can't remember anything. It's based on washing your mind out. It is a loose term, but this is what's happened globally. This is what's happened internally. This is what's happened. I mean, when you get lucidity in experiences, this is why it's like gold. And that's why I say you have to try and be lucid on all levels. It's in your reality, cognition, dream state. You have to be as lucid as you can on every single level of existence, because that is where the gold is. That is where, if you interface with that consciously, you're going to be given gems about your entire story.
Well, the mystery about gold is it's linked to immortality and being a symbol of immortality and everlasting life, which is really quite interesting. How it was a golden retriever that actually
came over to
actually came into the scene.
Yeah.
I felt that was symbolic. Do you want to go into what you experienced this morning and give a recount of that in regards to the war which is taking place with the Reptilians and the MILAB role?
Actually, I was surprised at how much I retained without being washed. The first thing was I was in amongst others in the unit. Originally, we were all being transported. We were in our green camo with these strange backpacks and headgear with breathing devices, but they were not on us. So they were loose, and we were being transported. Now there were a bunch of us that we knew each other, but we were not allowed to be together. So it would seem like if we knew one another, you were definitely
going to be separated.
You were going to be separated, and you were going to be put with a unit where you didn't know any of the people, the men mostly. So while we were being transported to the location, and it was through in these, we're always being transported in similar vehicles of underground vehicles. I had looked down. I took note of what I was wearing, and I took note of what the type of backpack that we had, and then we got separated. So they put us in units, and then they engage us. So I was with this unit of guys. I was the only female, and they were like very typical southern boys, pretty young and
bit
Yahoo-ish. Yeah. And we were dropped off to do a Operation Clean Sweep. And that's what they called it, Operation Clean Sweep. And we had been briefed.
Where were you traversing through?
Well, we were on the East Coast.
Or was it underground?
No, it was above ground. Like we were traveling underground, and then we were like...
You surfaced.
And then we were released in our units. We were pitted up against fighting reptilians. It appeared that we were placed in an area where there was a lot of catastrophe and a lot of deaths, mutilation, the fluids. It was really horrifying in terms of the stench and what we were seeing. So as this catastrophe was taking place and all of these people were literally victims of the catastrophe, the reptilians were above ground. Once we finished battling the reptilians who were taking these survivors and doing terrible things with them. We had, we were successful. We had killed them all in that location. I think all of our units were doing the same thing, basically. And we were also rescuing the survivors. So we were taking them back. They were all in shock. They had horrible stench on their bodies. And it wasn't just the stench of everything that was happening. It was actually the stench of the reptilians, their secretions. And so it was a horrible, horrible smell. We had to take them back basically and they were all in shock. They all had to be, their minds had to be erased from the entire event. But it didn't really matter because they were in shock anyway from their experiences that they endured. But when we were removing them, my guys in my unit were making fun of them because of how they smelled. And it was these are all sexual secretions that are marking, like animalistic marking, which perforates through and into, and it becomes a part of your glands, and it's contamination. So they had to be actually put through this system of decontamination, and so did we. We had to go through the same thing, and the guys at my unit, they were just being, assholes about it. And they were being assholes about me because I had some of the smell on me, because when I ascertained the victims, I had to carry some of them out.
Yeah. So you made
and
contact.
So I made contact with them, and it had the smell on me.
But did you have like gloves on or anything like that?
Yeah, I was in I was completely full gear, but it didn't matter. It gets through everything. Mm-hmm. Like this is not a normal
bodily excretion.
Yeah. Anyway, so my unit, they were making fun of me too. And I was really pissed off at them because I thought, you can't even go deep inside and pull them out. Like, you're keeping to the safe zones and doing your job, and you're bitching to me and you're telling me that, it got really crude, actually. I'm not going to go to how crude it got. So we had to go through our own decontamination. So we were being transported to decontamination, but in the meantime, they had kept some of the hands of the reptilians that were severed, and we were using the
unconventional weapons.
Yeah, it wasn't guns. It was like a plasma type of weapon. Yeah, and it just sliced everything off like butter. It was just not a big deal at all. So they actually brought back the reptilian hand, and the guys were playing football with the
forearm.
The amount of horrifying death that was around us, and what these people were surviving because the reptilians had come to the surface in areas where they were not witnessed on the whole. All of our units, that we were separated and dispersed through a large territory. Each area, they were dealing with the same thing.
Okay, you mean a territory covering a state or a whole country?
A state.
A state.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereabouts do you feel that was?
Well, I feel it was in the eastern area of the country.
Which country?
The U.S.
You're saying potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of people are going to scrutinize this, but
yeah.
So you feel that these reptilians were actually taking advantage of the calamitous situation, which is going on around Florida.
That's why we went in there.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. And we know this is never going to be reported on any mainstream media,
but that was the reality cognition I had.
And you feel that the witnesses that would have been taken would have been memory swiped?
Oh no, they were all memory swiped. When they went to and through decontamination, they were all being medically swiped.
Can you tell me what you've witnessed, where you would have...
And in fact...
where that would have been indicated?
Yeah, because you had, the military had these setups, these areas that they built them in the instant. So they'd come in, they put all these tents up, and plastic hallways that you go through.
What color were the tents?
Well, the tents were all like mustard greeny
Okay.
color. And then they had, all these hallways made out of plastic that you had to go through, and then they had rooms, decontamination rooms, where you were hosed, and then you were aired. The other thing is that we were put through decontamination, and we were put through medical swiping as well. So everybody was put through the same thing. Only the victims, it was much more vigorous. They were in a totally different part. And then we were on to the next mission, so we were geared up in white, all white military garb, even booties, like everything was white. And then we were we had to go into this, and this is routinely what I see whenever I'm having these experiences. It's it looks like a train underground. It's white with a lot of windows, which is weird, but the windows are all like tainted colored, so you can't see out of it anyway. But it's white, long. It seems like it's some kind of an elongated train type of vehicle, but it's like a super fast bullet.
Yeah.
And it's underground, and you go. You're not in there for long, and you're at your next location. So this thing can span countries in minutes. And we were on to the next one. So once we were processed and decontaminated and swiped, we were processed and we were on to the next mission. And
Seems like it would have been for colder climates.
Yeah, because we were all
in the snow camo.
Yeah, the point that we were going in, we were also being briefed on maps of the U.S. and what was to come, and like what they had already planned in terms of, what was coming, where the location was, the units that would be sent out, whatever. And I had noticed that I was looking at some of the quote soldiers that were there also, who were lion humanoids, which took me aback. And I remember just looking at them going, oh my god, you guys are the lion humanoids, and you're here in the flesh, and you're involved in this too. And they were in military garb like us, and they had their units, and they were amalgamated with everything. But I just had seen it and went, wow, okay.
Well, the felines are well known for tackling the serpent races in their own
but they were there.
long-standing wars.
So I was, surprised. I just remember being really pleasantly surprised. Like, hey, wow, that's great. You're actually here. This is super. But yeah, that was the dream that I had.
I'm not going to call it a dream. We can just say that for the purpose of allowing people to make up their own minds what they may or may not be. We already know that the reptilians are eventually going to be coming to surface. We've already given notice of that. We've provided warning for those who will be surviving the pending catastrophes, which are going to be engineered, and some won't be, but many will be. This is all meant to coincide in conjunction with the Planet X system, which is inbound. They know it, we know it. I've already had scientific confirmation back in 2009. Maybe I'll go into that on another day. But this is something that the governments have long known and prepared for, and they've been investing and expanding in their underground base network, more so, with full knowledge of what is inbound and what this system is going to bring with it. A lot of these wars which are going to be fought, they're basically alien wars. They're the wars between the reptilians, the Nordic, Aryan-like beings. So the Star Wars is going to be between them, but obviously, as we've already alluded to in previously, Nordic type races are going to be the ones which are going to make out that they're going to be our saviors. However, they're still operating in their own interests, and this is just a territorial war, and there's no need for us to get caught up in it, or to choose a side, or to be deceived that they are acting in your best interest, because they are still here for their own manipulative agendas and their own personal stakes and desires, which has been a very long-standing ancient war. Do you want to add?
So one of my thoughts is with regards to the black alien blood, black alien goo. I would really love for any scientific research to
Examine you?
To examine me, and
yeah, you will not be disappointed. I guarantee you. That is a walking, talking X-file to the utmost degree in knowing much of what Lauda has recounted to me. Any serious researchers and scientists are welcomed. That includes you, Harold, if you want to come on board.
There are a lot of people involved in my medical X-files that are there. And there are records.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing.
So
we'll also add that if any of these other medical staff, technicians want to come forward, if you feel if it is not a danger to you, or if you can disclose safely,
or even anonymously,
we do welcome you to come forward, because you've survived and overcome so much opposition.
Yeah.
And the one who sent you here, he emphasized that's what you have to do. You just have to hold on and you have to survive. And I feel that's actually why you had to come in with consciousness. Because if you didn't have awareness of your identity, of who you are, then it would have been very, very easy to just give up.
Let go. Yeah, and I had to hold on until that precise time where quantumly, as per the law, I could step into my law. I was also told that when I was not able to retain the flesh properly, and I wasn't able to be in the 3D reality the way I needed to and function in it and excel in it, I was warned that unless they were all pulling out to not give me the, how shall I say, they had to let me grow up. They had to let me literally become a being in the 3D reality and to transmute everything so that I would start abundantly living and in transmuting all of the negativity of my life and all of that horror, that I had to literally be the living embodiment of the opposite in transmutation for me to be able to successfully keep doing what I came in to do. But I was warned, unless I am successful, because the work is in the 3D body, in this realm. This is where it all comes through. All the filtering, it has to come through us in here. It can't happen in any other way. It can't happen, when you leave this place. No,
because the buck stops here.
Exactly. So I was warned, because I had a really difficult time staying in my body. There was just so much horror going on.
Well, the fact is that we are multidimensional beings, and we do operate, especially those who are more meta in their being, do operate on other densities at the same time.
At the same time.
But
you can't be there more than here. And so when I was warned, and it was like, you have until this time to integrate the 3D and to start truly living what you are and putting that, taking that meta here. But you have until this time, because after that, it's more difficult. And you won't be able to do what you came in to
transmute it. Well, because they also would have known of the invasive element, which would be coming in at a particular point, more so and more so and more so.
Exactly.
And that is what's happening.
Terraforming of your mind.
Yeah, terraforming the mind, terraforming the earth.
The body.
And there is a malevolent agenda involved here.
Part of what it has to be is that because the work has to be in the 3D body and in the life that you build, unless that has a manifested state of being in goodness, in the paradise, and you creating your own paradise, and you creating that reality, because it is mind made manifest here. This is the technology. Then it won't work. And then you won't even be able to do the original task that you came to do, because you are not integrated here, and you're not the energy isn't the embodiment of what that is. So
well, this is the thing, this is all about the state of consciousness. So you can be in the storm, and if your state of consciousness is evolved and integrated to spirit, then you aren't going to feel the hell that others who haven't applied themselves accordingly, what they're going to have a more difficult time.
If you really get impregnated in your narrative of the setup story,
the victimhood,
the victimization, then this is how they steal your life.
Yeah. So if you accept that and you allow that victimhood, even if legitimate victimhood, to define you, to define your life, to define your experience on this as a victim, and to define and overrun your consciousness, then that's going to be a huge block for you, and it's gonna be a block to your progress, be a block to your evolution, and it's gonna keep you stagnant.
Yeah, because when you choose to believe in a narrative that's not your spirit and that isn't your true essence,
it's aside from that.
Then you are being imprisoned in your own mind, and you're manifesting that
in the matrix.
In the matrix.
In the matrix experience.
So this is why they were telling me, and when I say they, everybody's like, who's they? Time doesn't exist, so past, present, and future happen simultaneously, and oftentimes it's you communicating with you from the future, from the past, whatever. Then there's the benevolent family that is outside this matrix, who's been dealing with this and have come in to undo and to help to undo through us. Now, though
they will also come in more directly,
right,
as well, at an appointed time.
Exactly. So, and I mean, and they've come in the flesh to literally protect me in the moment in front of other people, like what that happened when I was attempted kidnapping in the middle of the afternoon. But another story. The thing is that when some people say to me, well, why are you telling me to focus on the 3D? That's everything I don't want to do. That's everything I want to run away from and escape. But see, that's a disharmonic, and that's a disharmonic from your own creation. When you chose to be here, you chose to go through what you need to here. It is essential that you integrate that knowingness that this is part of what you need to do to get to what you are already. So integrating the 3D and maybe focusing on it and trying to and when I say this, I don't mean this abstractly.
Coming in here, there's also a level of, well, there are other beings here who are given their will.
Right.
And that is what it is.
But
and sometimes, circumstances do occur where people are on the receiving end of harm.
Absolutely.
And not because the benevolent family endorses that or approves that, but there is willful allowance.
Look, I'm the
on certain
epitome of
levels.
that,
Yeah.
okay? I'm the living epitome of all of horrifying things, which mean nothing to me, because that's not who I am. So what I concentrate on, knowing that this is where the work is done, is that you need to manifest a safe life, an abundant life, an independent life, so that you're not codependent on something or someone, so that you are not a slave of something or someone. You need to be able to create your paradise in your little tiny world. And you need to be able to be and have a healthy foundation by which to create from that an abundant life full of everything that you actually are. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Not all of this other junk.
Yeah.
Okay? Which is junk. Including, I mean, if you want to believe that your life is filled with implants and this and that and the other thing and the possession and the demons, I've been there, I've done that. I've survived it. I've survived demons torturing me in the flesh since I was tiny. All of that. It isn't that everything that you can imagine is real. There isn't one thing. If you imagine it, it's real, okay? But you don't need to give it life. If you don't give it life, it is not real to you. It cannot hurt you. It cannot come in. It's only what we give life to.
And give allowance.
And give allowance. That's the breach. That's the only... And it doesn't matter. The breach can be a tiny, tiny, tiny crack in your wall. That's all that's needed. Having seen, experienced, survived, lived, dead, all of it, I can tell you that all those things cannot stick to me. Implants can't stick to me. Parasites, whatever. It doesn't work that way. It only works if you feed it, if you give it, if you breach, if it can walk into your reality. But that's not who and what you are. You take what you really are and you're bringing that heaven here. Because this is the secret. This is where paradise is. This is where we are meant to design our creation in a paradise.
Well, when you're saying that, you're talking about a personal paradise in one's personal universe.
Right, but it's also in the entire realm. That the realm got hijacked. Everybody's mind got hijacked. It no longer became the paradise. It's the second earth will be the paradise, okay? Because it's just going to be transferred for those that,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that it is going to be a paradise. Whether what happens in this cell of creation is because what has chosen its own darkness, and they did not want to evolve within themselves, so they wanted to stick to the narrative of this parasite, of the narrative of the vampire, of the narrative of death, of the narrative of all the things that are on the lower frequency. They have to live out that.
Well, I feel that is being lived out now, until its dissolution.
Right. They have to live it out and be, dissolved. And for that isn't holding those frequencies, for those that are living life frequency, which is creation, then the second earth is exactly the vibration. And that doesn't mean that, this whole process that's happening, it is a refining of the universe. Through the fire. And the fire, it has to burn out everything that is not of creation, because it's enough. It's
So
enough.
it's-
Creation's saying it's enough. This
Yeah.
has gone on way too long, and it can't keep going.
Oh, it's a purging. It's a process
So,
of purging
right.
that's going to be occurring.
And-
And it's going to be turbulent.
And that's why the work has to be done through the 3D body. I mean, you need to want to be in this that you have created.
Present.
And the present in your life. Yet you need to let go of the narratives that are comfortable, that make you want to, continue to be a slave to your own chains, that lull you into not doing what you need to and not being accountable, because it's easier to just be a victim, or it's easier to just not do, or it's easier to just let something else do it for you. This is exactly what's being undone. And that's not
Really
to
where
say
it's at.
people don't suffer. I mean, really, genuinely, we know people suffer. Okay, and we know that suffering sometimes brings you to wanting an escape. But there's something magnificent about everyone's creation, and something magnificent about everyone's beautiful manifested state of their own being, and them wanting to bring that essence in their vessel and in their world, in their realm. And that's what it's about. So connect with what you know you are. Bring that more in, and start growing it, just like a little garden. Just like a little garden. You're a little garden. And
Cultivate it.
just water it, love it, talk to it, grow it. Bring in that love. Bring in that.
Yeah. And we're not under any illusions. We know that it's an arduous process. It's an arduous process walking through the shadows in what appears as a valley of death. Okay, because we are surrounded by a lot of darkness, but there's also the opposite here too. So it is what you want to transmute, and that shadow to light, so to speak.
Yeah, and you know what?
And hey, I'm going through this process. I've had a lot of shadows to go through. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm like some evolved guru. I certainly am not. Okay, so everything that we're outlining here is what we're applying to our own lives. And so we're saying this in a form of fellowship, not in a sense of speaking on any pedestal or anything like that.
Oh, and relationships are like that. The most brilliant breakthroughs come with a lot of heart pain and tears and growth and happiness and struggle.
Labor.
And but if both are willing to do that, that's what. That's where the...
And that's where, examine all your levels of relationships, whether it's with family, with friends, with work colleagues, and you want, obviously, to have close to you what is going to cultivate fruit into your life and into your being. And this is, what our focus is going to be when we, put that little work together, and, hopefully we can...
And we'll
we can
be
give some helpful information.
Going into, you just reminded me of something that also will go into more of my other experiences about the medical X-Files and the things and the surgeries
catalog.
and the catalog that, But the other thing that you reminded me of in speaking about darkness to light is the 3 days of darkness, which I want us to go into, which are a part of the artificial mechanics of it, and so we're going to go into that a little bit more.
The simulation effect.
And
I've had a few tidbits shown to me as well.
Exactly.
In that regard.
And I think that's important.
And the
to bring that
tweakings
out.
to the matrix.
Yeah.
So we'll get onto that. This is taking it all in its stages, and so if you stick around, then
there's a lot of parts coming. Can't keep up. But so for any of the people who may be in a position to do scientific testing, I'm definitely,
Or you're contactable via
yeah.
email.
What I want to say is I want to give people hope that they are able to do it, because if I did it, if I transmuted my life,
Hell.
which was hell, which is like many layers of you know, many layers. If I could do it, then you can do it.
It's possible.
And there is no such thing as they want you to believe it's not possible. They want you to believe that you're so tired, and they want you to just,
Well, they want you to be tired.
yeah.
They want to siphon.
They want you to just stop. They want you to just say, I give up. If you're experiencing that, I can tell you that you have an incredible reservoir of quantum energy and beingness, and that you are incredibly vital. So you must take the truth in essence and bring it down and lift it up. And enjoy. Bring enjoyment in.
Yeah. It's all state of mind and influencing your environment rather than your environment influencing you. And I know it's easier said than done at times, but it is possible, and it is all up to you, ultimately. How you alter your perception.
If you feel like you're being targeted and you're being hit really badly, there is a shaking of it off. That is a scientific thing that animals do in the wild, which really does work. George knows that I do this sometimes. Sometimes I just get ridiculous and I'm like, but shake it off. Shake it off with sound. Sound is huge. All right, take a crystal, sing in the rim of it, and let that reverberate. Shake, bring in the vibration of life. Okay, undo these low vibrations that are not even natural to your synergy.